the Weekly Feed. I'm Kyle Meredith and Sean Lennon. How are you?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. You're back with this. You've got your band. I mean, this is your band. It's not a project at this point. Like, this is the main focus. Goes to the Saber-Tooth Tiger, right?
Yeah, I mean, it started as a side project probably 5-6 years ago, and it sort of took over as the main, focus of my life at this point.
Right.
And I'm very happy about that. I mean, I've always wanted to be in a band, truthfully, and I think I was a solo artist mainly because it was just too hard in Manhattan to find people who could commit to a single group.
It seems like that would be way easier to find it when you have a town that big.
You think that, but or maybe it's not just Manhattan, but modern life is such that great musicians tend to have too many commitments. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I always secretly wanted to just have a band. It was just hard to get it together, and meeting Charlotte sort of facilitated that. And at first, I think because it wasn't a quote-unquote serious project, it sort of flourished more.
Like you
it
had
blossomed more naturally than something that we had too much, that we treated too preciously. You know what I mean? So I think it happened organically, and it's been really fun.
Yeah. Well, you put out this amazing record, and I guess this is the technically third one, Midnight Sun, right?
It's technically the second record, actually.
That's because there's EPs and I guess and tour only things.
The thing called La Carrot Bleu is just an EP, and we had actually done that for France only. That's why there's like a French language song on there. Gotcha. And we designed that EP just to sell at the French tour. Yeah. But it kind of became our de facto second record, but it was unintentional. It was parenthetical. The first record also was sort of just a bunch of demos to us, and that wound up being more of a debut album because after we released it, surprisingly, we got booked on Fallon, and then we got booked for a few tours. So then we had to figure out how to represent that live.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it was nice, but we didn't. We actually planned on just coming out with an electric album right away. But I wound up working for my mom for a few years, and there were a couple other projects that sort of postponed it. But I think it was all meant to be because in the end, we wound up crystallizing our vision in a way that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, again, it's a perfect record. It's kind of been my nonstop record for the past couple of weeks. I mean, you've been a part, I guess, of so many projects and so many different sounds. To kind of see hone in on this one. I don't know. You've had a history though of kind of, I don't know what I'm saying, turning pop on its end.
Okay. Yeah. Which end? Its rear end. Well, I think I've had the luxury to play around a lot because I was never pursuing pop stardom really, and I was also, I was privileged enough that I could choose to play music that I wanted to play, and I wasn't sort of working for the man, as it were. Sure. And so I think I've been able to experiment more. Also, I've had a lot of weird influences, from my mom being avant-garde to just being exposed to lots of different stuff. I was a bassist in Chivo Mato, and I hung out with John Zorn, who was like a jazz guy, and so I had a lot of people sort of influencing me in different ways, so I never really felt the need to, join a boy band or something. Not like they would have taken me, but I never had that
even picture that
calling. I never felt the call.
Yeah. No, but it did. I like this style of freedom that it's given you because not everybody, I guess, has the opportunity. When a band comes out, it's about how do we survive. We have to write the radio hit, but you've been able to experiment. I mean, when you're writing that music, the way you've done your entire career, I mean, what's the question here? Has it ever been where you thought, that's got to be more catchy because of X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
Or is it, just instilled like this is what's come out?
Well, I mean, the truth is, I think the times that I have tried to anticipate what people would want and to try to chase my projected vision of what I thought is popular or commercial, I've always sort of been embarrassed with the result. And so I haven't published those things. Yeah. In fact, there's an entire album I made once that I kind of canned because it was too polished. Yeah. And I've also done a couple, new movie score things, a couple commercial things in Japan here and there. And I don't feel like that's my forte necessarily. Mm-hmm. I think honestly, I'm not against pop music at all. I listen to George Michael and I love Prince.
Who doesn't?
If I could make the perfect pop song that was super successful, I probably would. Yeah. I think what I do is just what comes naturally to me, and I'm doing the best the best that I can do with what the talents I have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be against pop music.
I guess looking through your entire career, it got me thinking about how you really, in a great way, haven't had to pay attention to genres and to definition and to parameters. I started thinking of this line that you can get from Igor Stravinsky to the Strokes. By going Stravinsky to Steve Reich to the Velvet Underground.
From Bach to Beatles. I like
it. It's very easy to do, and I think a lot of bands get caught in that trap. Yeah. It's like, okay, these are the parameters, these are what we have to do, but you've been able to kind of pull through that.
Well, I think I'm lucky that I grew up in the 90s, and it was a really experimental time. I mean, it was normal for people to go to festivals and you would see, Radiohead playing with the Beastie Boys, playing with like Wu-Tang Clan, and that just felt totally normal. Now, where I think things tend to be a little more segregated, like the hipster festival or like the hippie festival or the jazz festival, whereas I grew up at a time when mishmashing was really kind of genre bending, mishmashing, and Beck and those kind of people were really mixing it all up. Like the Beasties were doing bossa nova and R&B and funk and hardcore hip hop and hardcore punk all on the same record. And so that just seemed kind of natural to me. So I think that's the world that I grew up in, essentially.
You've been touring with Beck too, right?
We are on tour with Beck now. In fact, this show tonight and tomorrow are our only headline shows, and we're sort of, we were doing them because we wanted to play while we had days off. So I mean, Beck is doing something else now, but we're going to meet him at in Massachusetts at the Mocha.
I love what he's doing with the new records.
It's really good. In fact, I'd listened to the record a bit, but hearing it live a few times, really, it's sinking in what an amazing record is. There's a song called what's it called? Something Morning. I forget the name, but it's really
Morning Phase.
Morning Phase is a record, but it's called. Oh, I forget now.
Yeah,
it's one of the last songs he plays in the show, and I'm just falling in love with it. It's I'm a fan of everything Beck does, but I think that his records, the Mutations and the Sea Change, kind of adult Beck, I actually really love. I really do.
It's different than adult contemporary Beck. It's a different thing.
Well, because he does the hip hop thing, and he does the electronic thing, and he does the fooling around stuff.
But the personal one, it's just him and the guitar.
When he does his sort of, I guess, his Willie Nelson records, that kind of more quiet vibe, I really like.
It's the first person I've ever heard make that kind of
well, I don't think
comparison.
It's so far off. It's like Neil Young, Willie Nelson, Beck. Like, I think he's sort of listening to that stuff a little bit, But
well, getting back to the ghost of the Saber-tooth eye. There was one interview I read where you mentioned writing music that has purpose and meaning. And again, I think that a lot of bands would say that, but it's rare that I would find someone who actually.
Did I say that? I'm wondering.
Somewhere.
What was I saying? That you should write music with purpose and meaning?
Maybe, and it was amongst a lot of interviews I read about it. So.
That's interesting. Now, I'm wondering how I would back that up, because I don't know if I believe that or not.
Yeah.
I think, grandiose or general statements even about art are difficult, territory to tread, because it's hard to say anything meaningful in words about music. I mean, music is so intuitive and it's so spiritual. So anything that I hear myself say in an interview about art, I tend to cringe and just be like, what was I talking about? Because it all sounds so esoteric and kind of, up your own ass or something. But
but there's got to be a line somewhere in there. I mean, sure. I guess there's the cliche thing about, well, I'm making it for myself and it has to be meaningful to me, and I don't mean cliche, as a put down or anything. But it's said a lot. But
well, that makes sense to me. I do think that what matters is not imagining or anticipating an imaginary audience and just making something that feels good to you. That I do really believe in. But the idea of purpose, I'm not so sure, because there's this whole Oscar Wilde quote, which is kind of nerdy, about how art is something that has no purpose, because that's how he defines art. Like anything that has purpose, like clothes or baking bread or doing architecture, that's functional. So that's what distinguishes from pure art, which is something that has no actual pragmatic function. And I kind of like that idea, because in a way it sort of frees art from the confines of the mundane and the everyday.
Sure.
And it allows you to do something that ultimately is kind of frivolous, but, you know, has some personal, spiritual purpose to it.
I guess so. As a fanboy, like
This is the kind of rant that I hate hearing myself talk about. It sounds like bullshit.
no, it doesn't. But I like
believe-
I like the debate, and it seems like we'll always debate ourselves on a topic like this.
Yeah.
You can always go back and forth. But as like a fanboy of rock, like cliche lines, I believe in rock and roll. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, me too.
You know, and it's wanting it to be something. It's wanting it to be more than just, you know, a phoned-in 3-minute, you know, piece or whatever. So, I guess what I'm saying is I like when people put the thought into it, and I like it when they try. You know.
Yeah. Well, that I believe in too. I mean, people often ask me, why are you doing psychedelic music? And to me, it's not so much that we're doing psychedelic music, it's just that we're really trying extra hard to make all the sounds exciting and to make the narrative journey of the music exciting and to take you places that are unexpected and to make you feel like you're on a journey or watching or listening to a mind movie. You know, that's what psychedelic music is to me. It's really just sort of it's sort of developed, and it has narrative tension and dynamics, and it takes you somewhere, and it's not just sort of like a plateau.
Right.
And I think that's the definition of it for me. And, you know, so therefore Stravinsky or, you know, whatever could be considered psychedelic because it is to me.
Sure.
You close your eyes and you're totally tripping out. And so that's all I really think about in terms of what we're trying to do now is to put a little effort in to make it more of a journey
Experience,
and
sure.
more of an arc and a structure that's interesting and hopefully entertaining.